Hey all, Heretic here, and today in Hearthstone Battleground, we're going to be discussing curves. What are curves? How do you utilize them? Are you already utilizing them and you don't realize it? That's a key thing. Advanced player already know a lot of these and are utilizing them whether or not they even remember them. But as a newer player, you might be unaware of these. And they are useful tools, especially in lower MMRs where you're unsure of when you should be tiering and what you should be doing, because maybe you play really casual and you don't have time to absorb every single aspect for hours and hours and hours, like some people who are streaming or people who just constantly grind games all day. You're playing casual, but you still want to do better. So what are curves? Curves are a pattern that you tier with. And different curves will give you different results based on hero powers, anomalies. Some are more effective than others in certain situations, and it's important to recognize when they're good and when you should deviate from them. If you just stick with a curve regardless, you might find yourself dead before you even get to utilize any of the strength you're trying to get there for. So definitely keep it loosey-goosey. Like, don't say, I am this curve and this is what I'm doing. But what you want to do is identify, oh, this curve is useful. Now, is it in my interest to go faster than the curve because I'm super strong and my opponents are weak? Am I fighting a dead guy? Is it in my interest to go slower than the curve because I've actually lost a lot of ridiculous fights and I'm about to fight a super high roller? I don't want to die on turn 7. So let's ignore the curve and let's move to a different, just go completely off the books and do your own thing so you can survive. It all depends on what you're going for and how strong you are and how strong they are. An example of this would be, it's 7 gold. You are now going to go to tier 3. Next turn, you look in the shop, there's a triple. You look at the tier 4 triples, it's nothing you're super excited for. I know typically right now there are, but different lobbies offer different things and the meta can shift, right? And maybe tier 5 is that triple you want. So here's the question. Do you buy a bunch of cards you don't want and keep that shop frozen, or do you just tier, go to 4 and say, well, I might lose this fight, but at least I'm going to get that tier 5 triple chance I want to get a quality minion. Now, what you have to do to figure this out is look at your opponent. How have they been doing? Which hero are they? Are they a hero who is a big combo hero in the late game? Or is it the kind of hero who's going to have a lot of power in the early game? It really depends on what their hero power gives them. Does it give them stats or free minions? Ooh, you're probably going to be in trouble. Do they get extra gold or like a one-use hero power? Well, you're probably okay with it depending on which one it is and what they're doing. Now, mind you, there are always people who do wacky things that don't follow the patterns. So while you can play smart and do it right, still get hit for a ton of damage, sometimes you just can't control that. But if you play for the averages and you recognize that you are strong and your opponent's weak, it's definitely in your interest, if the tier 5 triple's better, to go for that. So let's talk anomalies. How do anomalies affect your game? Well, for the purposes of curving, sometimes dramatically and other times not at all. It really depends on the anomaly you're looking at. Say it's Secrets of Norganon. Well, Secrets of Norganon just makes it so there's tier 7 minions. That's it, there's an extra tier. The only way that really affects your gameplay is you might be able to tier more aggressively because more people themselves are going to be more aggressive because they want to get to those sexy tier 7 minions, whether or not they should. If it's pack stands and the shop has 7 minions at all times, that isn't going to affect how you tier. It just means you're more likely to find some economy minions in the early game, but overall, it's going to be the exact same curving system. You're not going to worry about tiering at a different rate because it's just extra minions. But let's flip it on its head and let's say it's money match and you start at 10 gold. Well, if you follow a basic curve, we'll get to that, and you're in money match, you're gonna get trashed pretty hard pretty quick. It's gonna look good for the first couple turns, and then it's really gonna go sideways for you really fast. Let's say it's valuation inflation, where tier 1 doesn't exist and minions cost their tavern tier in gold. I mean, if you're following a basic curve for this, once again, it doesn't work. So you really have to be adaptable. But that being said, keeping these in mind and using these in the normal games will give you a much more consistent experience. And I think just getting used to these patterns will be more useful in every lobby you ever play, because eventually anomalies are going to go away. And when you have these habits built into you, you'll find better results overall. So here we're going to cover the normal curves. There are some more outlandish ones, and I will give you links to them so you can see them because they are going to be useful at times, if not now, maybe later. But we're going to cover the more traditional standard curves right now. And then later, if there's need, we'll go cover all the really niche ones. But let's start with basic curve, is where you are going to tier on turn 2, 5, and then 7 typically. And so you can see the pattern right here. I've got it displayed for you. This is typically the route you're going to follow in a basic curve. And what you want to do, if possible, find an economy minion, or you don't mind selling on turn 1. That way on turn 3, you get to buy 2 minions and you don't have to sell something that you might want to keep. If you have something you just want to keep, it just means you have a role if you want to utilize it if the shop isn't favorable. But depending on the minions you find, you still might be able to cycle a minion like Patient Scout or something, if that still exists when you're watching this, because they do change the pools a lot. The curves kind of stay the same. So I want to be I don't want to stick to any minion specifically, because curves are eternal, but minions come and go a lot. So just a couple examples, but heroes that like basic curve would be like ETC, Illidan, Nazar, things like that, where your hero power doesn't cost anything dramatic. Maybe it's the cost of a minion, or it's free. That's kind of what you want to go with in this scenario, because you want to be able to buy minions still to put on the board, but at the same time you want to get value out of this hero power, and basic will give you a good valuation, especially with those free hero powers where you can fit them in really nice. Now, fast basic is just a tiny variation on your basic curve, and this is where you feel good, where either you have a triple already lined up in the shop, or you just feel strong, or you don't mind taking the damage from the loss because you're ready to get to tier 4. And the only difference between basic curve and fast basic curve is on turn 6, instead of buying minions, you just tier. You just go straight to 4. You skip tier 3 completely, and now you're getting to those tier 4 minions a little faster for better value. So heroes that like to do that are like Ing, Lich King, Murloc Holmes. In the case of Holmes, he gives you economy. Lich King gives you more staying power with the minions you have on the board, and Ing just gives you free stats. So those kind of heroes can utilize their powers to be stronger, or at least take minimal damage even if they're going to lose. That way they get to those minions at tier 4 faster for extra value. Next up, we have Rafaam Curve. Now, Rafaam Curve is best with hero powers that cost 1 gold. If you have a 1-cost hero power, this curve sets you up nicely, so you can keep going through tier 1 till turn 4, and then eventually, hopefully, find a triple while you're doing those early turns so you can keep that shop frozen. That way, when you go all the way to tier 4, you can then take a 5 with that triple that you've kept frozen in the shop and not buying too early. This will set you up. Typically with a Rafaam Curve, depending on the hero, you are weaker right about turn 4, 5, and 6, but then you spike really hard with that triple if you can set it up, or hopefully your hero power is giving you stats or minions that are coming online to get you that big extra value. So some of the heroes that really like to use this curve are Mewwy, Rafaam, and then Galakrond. All heroes that are kind of long-term value that you're gonna get there. You're gonna get that big minion hopefully soon, but you gotta wait, and sometimes it gets painful while you're going through those mid turns, but once you get there, it's usually worth it. Next, we have 3-on-3, and you're right, this involves going to tier 3 on turn 3. The best scenario you can do with this is find an economy minion on turn 1. If you get an economy minion on turn 1 and you're looking at the shop and you're not really liking anything you see after you tier to 2, it's a very good idea to just go straight to 3 and get access to those better minions on turn 3. And if you have an economy minion, whatever that might be, you then can sell the extra portion of it. That way you can go to 3 and still have a minion on the board. It's perfectly fine to do it and just say, I'm going to lose turn 3 and not have that economy minion. But it really depends on the hero power, the anomaly, the lobby. How much damage did you take in those first 2 turns? Did you get Millhouse on turn 3? Are you looking at fighting AFK on turn 3? It can be nasty, so it really depends on who you are and who you're fighting and the anomalies present. Heroes that are really good in using 3-on-3 are heroes like Cookie, because you're going to get to discover. Once you go to 3, then you use your hero power and you discover a minion, hopefully a tier 3. Then Galewing, because you're getting faster access to discover those just better minions, so you can use your hero power to get the right discover at the right time. And Toki, because hey, if you get to tier 3, you can smash that hero power and get a tier 4 minion. This can work with any hero, but some of them get more value out of it, and they're all very lobby specific. Jeef Curve is another way I like to tier, and I find Jeef Curve, for myself, I enjoy the most when I see a pair in the shop. If I got a pair in the shop on turn 1, I'm already looking at Jeef Curve going, ooh, this could work. If it's a pair with an economy card, even better. Jeef Curve just sets it up nicely where you can get to those higher tiers with a pair online really fast because you saw it on turn 1, and then get that big value. Now, there's a lot of different variations on the Jeef Curve. When you want to do them is completely your choice. I prefer just doing a standard Jeef Curve, but I'll use slow Jeef Curve a lot too. So it really depends how you're feeling about the lobby and the particular hero you're playing. And finally, the last curve we're going to cover here is Yogg Curve. Yogg Curve, especially aggro Yogg Curve, I rather enjoy. You could do the basic one too. They both work. I just like doing the aggro one. Gives you big value out of 2-cost hero powers, because this is going to allow you, especially on turn 5 and 6, to just tier and hero power. And depending what kind of value you're getting from your hero power, that's free minions, that's big stats. It really is, situational which one you want to do, but the Yogg Curve really works very effectively for those 2-cost hero powers to give you a little more value. Heroes that like to use the Yogg Curve are going to be Guff, Yasarj, and Zarella. That 2-cost hero power gives them lots of value so they can tier aggressively while still getting those stats and free minions to really shine. And that's it. That is the basic idea of how to curve. These are some of the more widely used ones, but there's a lot more. And I feel like they will be very helpful for you to learn these and understand how to do them, and then later improvise on them. Now, I'm going to give you a link in the description below. That link is going to take you to a Google Doc that is going to have all the curves. It's going to have different ideas on how to play the game, anomalies, hero things. It's going to give you a lot of good information that's made by Minder Roots, and I believe Jakirik is involved with it. If not, I'm sorry, I'm giving you credit you don't deserve, but I'm 99% sure I'm right on that one. These are both excellent members of the community, players who know what the hell they're doing and put in time and effort to put this list together. So thank you to them for this. This is used by almost everybody in the community who knows about it. So definitely you will learn these and you won't need this list forever, but spend a little time, look it over, and recognize play patterns that can make you better at the game. Now, the one thing I do want to say though is do not live and die by any of this information. Figure it out, figure out what works, but also figure out what works for you. These are patterns that very good players have figured out, but these are by no means the absolute best. There's always somebody new finding out something different that might work a little better for them or for everybody, but they're not telling everyone. So make sure you experiment a little bit. Don't live and die by this. Thanks for watching all. I hope you learned a few things today, and I hope you had a good time. If you did have a good time and you like this and you haven't, please hit subscribe. It helps grow the channel and it makes this feel a lot more fun to do as I see those numbers climb up. It's the way I gain my YouTube MMR. Thanks for watching all. I'll catch you in the Battlegrounds. Until then, have a good time. Later.